Surrogate mom gives birth to twins, but the parents refuse the babies. The reason is shocking. Danielle Owens never imagined she'd be lying in a hospital bed with two newborns she wasn't supposed to raise. At 33, she'd been through her fair share of struggles. A college dropout, a survivor of a messy divorce, and a night shift cleaner at the city courthouse. But what defined her most wasn't failure or fatigue. It was her heart. And when she'd seen the flyer at the clinic about becoming a surrogate for a couple struggling with infertility, it felt like a calling. The couple, Eric and Melissa Langford, were wealthy, polite, and white. Danielle was black, single, and humble, but none of that mattered at the beginning. The agency handled the contracts. Melissa cried during the first Zoom call. Eric promised they would stay in touch throughout the pregnancy. They gave Danielle gifts, hired a personal nurse, and even paid for prenatal yoga classes. Whatever makes you comfortable, Melissa would text. We're so grateful. Danielle believed them. The process was emotionally taxing but smooth. At 10 weeks, she found out she was carrying twins. Melissa and Eric were thrilled. At 20 weeks, she shared the ultrasound photos. They mailed her a silver necklace with two tiny footprints. She didn't expect a bond, but how could she not? She sang to the babies at night. She smiled every time they kicked. They're not yours, her sister reminded her once. Don't fall in love. But Danielle just placed her hand on her growing belly and whispered, I know. The contractions started 2 weeks. Early, she was rushed to the hospital in the middle of the night, heart racing, barely able to dial the number the agency had given her for the Langfords. It went straight to voicemail again and again. Still, she told the nurses, the parents are on their way. Please page them. They'll be here. She went into labor without a single familiar face in the room. No Melissa holding her hand. No Eric pacing the hallway. Only the buzz of hospital machines and the calm voice of Dr. Feldman urging her to breathe. Through the pain, at 4:18 a.m., the first baby, a boy, entered the world with a soft cry. At 4:20 a.m., his brother followed, both healthy, both beautiful, one wrapped in a white blanket, eyes wide and calm, the other tucked close to her chest for just a moment before the nurses whisked them both to the infant care unit. Danielle was exhausted, her body shaking from adrenaline, but she managed one question through chapped lips. Are the parents here yet? A nurse shook her head. No word from them yet, but we'll keep trying. The hours blurred. Danielle dozed in and out of sleep, a dull ache settling in her core. When she finally woke properly, it was nearly noon. She asked again. No update. By evening, the hospital staff grew quiet. Some nurses avoided her eyes. Finally, Dr. Feldman came in and closed the door gently. There's something you need to know, he said. Danielle sat up slowly, her face pale. The Langfords aren't answering. We've tried every number. The agency hasn't heard from them either. Danielle blinked. What do you mean? He hesitated. They were supposed to be here at the time of birth. We contacted their legal representative. They've declined responsibility. They've asked us not to call again. The room felt like it tipped sideways. Danielle's mouth opened, but no words came. They what? I'm so sorry, the doctor said softly. They claimed the situation was not what they expected. Danielle's throat burned. What does that mean? Doctor, Feldman sighed. All we know is that when they were informed the twins were born, they asked for photos. Once they saw them, they sent a legal message to their lawyer, declining custody. Danielle froze. It was like someone had poured cold water down her spine. She thought of the twins, the one with the dimple when he cried, the other who clenched his tiny fist like he had something to prove. What happens now? She whispered. That's what we need to discuss. Danielle stood by the nursery window later that night, staring at the two infants sleeping side by side, one in a lavender onesie with cartoon cars, the other swaddled tight, his tiny hand resting on his brother's chest. They looked so peaceful, so perfect. Two boys who didn't ask for any of this. A nurse came up beside her. They haven't even given them names, she said softly. You're listed as gestational carrier. Danielle said nothing. The nurse hesitated. Would you like to hold them? Danielle hesitated. She wasn't supposed to. She'd signed paperwork. She was just a vessel. But something in her heart had already crossed the line. Yes, she said quietly. The nurse returned minutes later, placing both babies gently into her arms. Danielle sank into the rocking chair, tears silently streaming down her cheeks as the babies nestled close. The white couple she'd trusted had vanished. The system had no plan yet, and these boys, so warm, so alive, were suddenly no one's responsibility. A social worker appeared the next morning. She spoke gently, but in legal tones about temporary guardianship, foster systems, options. Danielle didn't interrupt. She just rocked gently. Then she looked up, voice barely louder than a whisper. So what happens to them now? Danielle barely slept the night after the social worker visited. The hospital room was dim and quiet, but her mind raced. She sat in the rocker with the twins, still unnamed, sleeping on her chest. The idea of giving them up to the foster system made her chest ache. But legally, she had no rights, no claim. She'd signed the contract. She was a vessel, nothing more. And yet, they looked like her. It wasn't just skin tone. There was something familiar in the curve of their lips, the shape of their ears. One had a birthmark, just like her nephew's. Could it be? At 6 a.m., she asked the nurse for a mirror and stared at herself, then at them. The resemblance was too uncanny to ignore. She picked up her phone and dialed the agency. They didn't answer. She called again, then emailed, then drove to the office the next day, pushing the twins in a borrowed stroller. The receptionist looked startled. Danielle, we didn't expect to see you. No one from your team has. Answer my messages. I'm sorry, the woman said, shifting uncomfortably. The Langfords terminated the agreement. That's all we were told. Danielle, clench your jaw. Something's wrong. Those babies. She pointed to the stroller. They look like me. You used the wrong donor. The woman stilled. Danielle leaned in. You mixed up the vials, didn't you? I'm not authorized. I want DNA tests. She contacted a lawyer. Pro bono. Within 3 days, the hospital drew samples. Danielle's the babies. The Langfords refused to provide. Theirs. 10 days later, the result arrived. Danielle was 99.98% biologically related to both boys. The sperm donor anonymous. Clinic error. Danielle dropped the papers on her kitchen table and wept. She hadn't just carried them. She had given birth to her own sons. The agency tried to avoid blame. The Langfords denied all responsibility. But the court saw through it. Danielle was awarded full legal custody. The court clerk congratulated her. The judge offered a rare smile. One nurse even cried in the back row. Danielle named them Malachi and Micah. Life wasn't easy. She returned to work after 2 months, taking night shifts and bringing the babies in a second-hand stroller with blankets tucked tight against the cold. A co-worker watched them in the break room while Danielle mopped floors and scrubbed stairwells, but they were hers, and that made everything worth it. She fed them oatmeal at dawn and hummed old gospel tunes while rocking them to sleep. Every milestone, a first laugh, a crawling race. The first 2 felt like a miracle. People stared, sometimes whispered. Is she really raising them alone? 2 babies? Where's the father? Danielle tuned them out. The only voices that mattered were the ones that called her mama. A year's passed. Malachi loved music. By age 5, he was tapping melodies on tabletops, using spoons as drumsticks. Micah was quieter. A reader often caught staring at the stars from their tiny apartment window. Danielle saved every penny. No vacations, no extras, just diapers, rent, school fees. She started tutoring on the side, picked up weekend shifts, sold her engagement ring from her ex-husband to buy a laptop for Micah's science obsession. She never told the boys about the Langfords. Not then. When the twins turned 7, the school held a talent show. Danielle sat in the front row, holding her breath. Micah stepped onto the stage with a poem about the bravest person I know. His voice was shaky at first, but he straightened his shoulders and said, "She gave birth to me, held me when no one else would. fought for me before I even had a name. He paused. My mama is not just my mother. She is the beginning of everything good in my life. The crowd stood. Some wept. Danielle couldn't move. When Malachi joined his brother on stage with a tiny keyboard and played a lullaby, Danielle used to hum in the hospital. She cried into her hands. After the show, a woman approached her well-dressed, nervous. "You don't remember me?" she said. Danielle frowned. "Should I? I used to work at the agency. I was there when the mix-up happened. The Langfords, they saw the boys were black and panicked. Said it would ruin their family image. They ordered us to cut ties. You deserve better." Danielle stared at her stunned. "Why are you telling me this now?" Because the woman said softly, "They tried to adopt again. I quit the same week. I never forgot what they did to you." Danielle nodded. "I didn't need their apology. I got something better." She looked down at her sons playing in the grass, laughter echoing under the evening sun. 1 week later, a small local paper ran a piece titled, "Mother Raises Abandoned Twins Who Turn Out to Be Her Own. Her Love Changed Everything." It went viral. Offers came in. Interviews, TV producers, book deals. Danielle declined them all except one small radio segment where she said simply, "You don't need the perfect plan. You just need to choose love every single day." The last scene closes years later. Malachi is playing piano on a stage filled with flowers. Micah is giving a speech behind a podium. Danielle sits in the front row again, older, stronger, prouder. And the two boys look out into the crowd and say together, "Everything we are started with a woman who didn't walk away." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments where in the world are you watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious,